Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Not Just Revenue. Last week, we had a few sound difficulties. I'm not quite sure what happened. I did absolutely nothing to a normal setup. I didn't change any settings, literally anything. So that was interesting. And thank you, Coley, who gave me an email and was like, just so you know. I did then later change or make some edit and then re-upload the audio. So hopefully many of you did not have an issue. If you did, I'm very sorry. You can listen again. It should be fixed. And I will obviously double check the sound in this episode before I post it. And you know what? I think it was really interesting because last week, I think I did last week's episode and I talked about how I have like a minimum viable product that I kind of require of myself, right? And one of those is getting a podcast out on a Monday. And last week, I turned up like in my pajamas, spot sticker on my face, looking absolutely fabulous. And it is very much like I record a podcast under any circumstance. And so even though I wasn't feeling it last week, I still hit publish. And yeah, okay, there might have been some sound issues, but I was able to fix them later on when I was feeling better. So minimum viable products for your highly recommend. This week, I want to talk about something that I am seeing come up over and over with my clients and something I see a lot in the online space. And I just want to not necessarily call it out. I don't think I'm calling out anything. It's more like giving my opinion on a situation. And that is launching. Now, if you know me, you know I know how to launch. You know your girl can launch, okay? I've had multi-5-figure launches. Like, I know what I'm doing. And yeah, I love a launch. This is not an episode for me to shit on launches by any means. This is an episode for me to question why is so many people think they need a launch and how people think that launching in and of itself is a strategy when launching on its own is not a strategy. It is only a strategy if it is a strategic decision. So I've written down a few, 4 ways in which I think you're trying to use launching and that are not strategic. And then maybe another episode will talk about strategic launching. Okay, that's another episode. But I want to kind of use this episode to call out maybe some of the behaviors or beliefs and things that you might be feeling that sometimes it feels like, well, I need to launch something. Like I need a launch, right? And I think this is what I'm hearing a lot. I need a launch, right? I need to launch something. And I know why. I completely get it. It feels like I need a bit of oomph behind me, right? I need to give it a bit of pizzazz and a bit of sparkle. I need to launch something. I would say 9 times out of 10 with my clients, when they say to me, I want to do a launch, like, will you help me do a launch? I'm like, I will help you do a launch, but I don't think you need to do a launch. I don't think you need to do a launch because I just think you need to start selling. You don't need a launch to sell. And I think this is where so many people have gotten confused. I think that people in the online space, have equated launches with selling. And so if you're not launching, well, then you must be nurturing, you must be in growth mode, you must be, doing another part of your marketing strategy. And that can be true. Okay, there are lots of business owners out there that are very happy working on this kind of launch cycle path, right? And this is very much where my business used to be, right? This is what I did, especially when I had group programs. I think this is more common in the group program space, is when you have, you'll have this launch period that'll end, and then you go, right, okay, and next month is, and it's usually 3-month cycles. You have month 1 is like audience growth, month 2 is audience nurture, month 3 is launch, right? And it kind of just goes round like all year, right? And that's how people tend to do 4 launches a year, right? Is you have 1 launch a quarter. That's a super, super common business model. And I'm not saying it's a wrong business model. Okay, absolutely, it works. And for those people, it is great. It gives you a focus. I think that's why I really liked it in the past, is It gave me a really clear sense of, I knew what I was meant to be doing and when. But then your income becomes somewhat launch dependent. And if you are doing that all the time, that doesn't give you any breaks, right? If you constantly have growth, nurture, sell, growth, nurture, sell, growth, nurture, sell, you are always on in that scenario. And this is where we also see a lot of burnout within the industry. We also see a lot of people going back to 9-to-5s from constant back-to-back launch cycles. And that's because it's not sustainable. Not that frequency anyway. Again, like I said, I'm not anti-launch. And there was a time where that did work for me, or at least I thought it was working for me. But there is a better way. And that is just evergreen selling. And I think evergreen selling has been, again, it's been used as a bit of a buzz phrase, a bit of I don't necessarily think people know what that means. I think they think that they have to have like this evergreen program and, something is evergreen or it's launch and there's like no in between and it feels very binary. And the great thing, and this is why I love business strategy so much, is because there are so many ways of doing things. There are so many ways, right? There is not like one launch to rule them all, okay? A little Lord of the Rings reference for you there. There's not, one evergreen strategy to rule them all. Like there isn't. Like everyone's business is completely different. Everyone's business model is different. Everyone's offers are different. Everyone's revenue goals are different. Everyone's capacity is different. And so everyone's business and business strategies are going to be different. But the online space has kind of had us believe like, well, it's launching or it's evergreen. Which one are you picking? And it's like, whoa. Since when are you picking? Like, what? No, I don't want to pick. Because then also, if you pick one and then you don't like it, then kind of brand yourself as a failure. Because you pick something and you weren't able to stick with it. But that's just, again, that's not how business works. If you try something and it doesn't work for whatever reason, it could be that you didn't get the sales you expected. It could be that you just didn't enjoy it. Maybe it, required too much energy of you. And then you're just like, no, that's not for me. That's not a failure. That's a lesson, right? Everything in business is a lesson. You cannot fail business to some regards. Like you can, it is very hard to fail business. And I think if you fail business, it comes from a place of maybe chasing some shiny objects and actually not being strategic. And so I've got 4 things because I'm kind of like giving you sprinkles, little ideas of maybe what I'm going to be talking about. But I want to come back to the shiny object kind of thing a little bit later on. And I want to start with using a launch or using, I need to do a launch, like that little phrase, like I need to launch something, or like I need to start thinking about launching and then not selling because you're working on your launch plan. You're working, don't mind putting on funny voice, but like you're working on your offer, you're working on your strategy. Okay. How many goddamn hours do you need to work on the strategy? Because if it's more than, I don't know, 3, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's not a strategy. I think you're actually using this idea of a launch as a form of procrastination. Okay? You are so afraid of, and this is like, there's like woven money mindset themes in here, right? You are so afraid of failure, of being perceived as a failure, as being perceived as, well, of having a launch that flops, but also you're also afraid of being perceived as someone who like sells and is salesy. This is something I've been thinking on a lot recently. Like literally as in like, I have been walking to the shop and been like, why the fuck are people out here saying they don't want to be salesy? You own a business. You've got to make sales. Like that's your livelihood. Do you not want to pay your bills? I don't understand. It's been going round and round in my head. I literally like cannot stand it. And I don't know where it's come. I feel like there was maybe this era where people were sold this like girl boss, like soft, like anti-selling, like anti-salesy sales. Like, no, sales is sales is sales. Okay. The same way that love is love is love. Right? You as a business owner, you as a self-employed individual, you as a freelancer, I don't really care what you're calling yourself. What I care is that you are here to make money. Okay. I don't give a shit if you think you want to be ethical. Ethical is like, and I was going to say ethicability, like that's not a word, but you can absolutely be ethical. Being ethical is just like not lying to people, pretty much. And so you can sell ethically, of course you can, but do not equate this idea of ethical selling as just not selling. People are thinking that if I just talk about my offer, like, and yeah, like there are some kind of like, you could say soft selling, right? Soft selling. But it's still selling at the end of the day, right? You're still talking about your offer, you're still talking about what it does. But basically, a lot of this like anti-salesy stuff is that you're just beating around the bush, and then you're like, oh, I'm not making enough money, I actually have to go get a day job. Well, yeah, no shit. You're not selling. Anyway, perhaps that is a whole other episode. Launch is procrastination. I say this with so much love. Like, you could map out a launch plan in a day. You could map out a launch plan in an afternoon. Hell, you could do it in an hour if you were like locked in hyper focus. Okay, I could definitely do it in an hour. You know, you could hire an expert. You could work with someone one-to-one. You probably wouldn't even need like, you know, a multi-month package. You just need like maybe an intensive, a VIP day. Yeah, things like that. Also, by the way, get in touch if you're interested in a VIP day. Like, it doesn't take that long. And so if this is something that you have been thinking about or working on for a long time, meanwhile, your pipeline, okay, do you know what that is? Some people won't listening to this, and that's okay. We're here to learn. A pipeline is basically like how many leads you have, like active leads, active inquiries, you know, people that are interested, that they've said they're interested, and, you know, maybe they're just waiting for the right time and things like that. Who's in your pipeline? If you are letting your pipeline go dry because you're like, well, I just want to focus on like, I just want to do a launch. Yeah, I just want to do a launch, right? I say this with like the kindest of hearts because I know and I've been there. But if you want to do a launch, just fucking do a launch, right? It does not have to be pretty. It does not have to be perfect. If you want to launch something, do a launch. If you don't know what that entails, go speak to a launching expert. They'll help you. If you're like, Emma, I don't have the money to go hire a launch expert, okay, YouTube exists, right? Podcasts exist. Those launching experts probably have one of those two things, okay? You can listen, you can consume their content, you can download their freebies, and you'll probably be able to put together some form of launch plan. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. A launch is basically just a kind of concentrated marketing plan and marketing and sales plan, right? That's it. That's it. It's literally a period of time where you are going to give a bit of attention to an offer and ask people to join. That is it. Does not need to be overthought. Okay. So if you are procrastinating because you're like, well, I'm going to do a launch, or like, I'm going to do that after I do the launch, or like any of that, you'll recognize yourself. This is your permission to either do the launch or scrap it. I don't care which one you do. Just pick a lane, go all in. Okay. I'm releasing this on a Monday. Okay. Let's say I don't even care, right? If you're listening to us on Friday, I don't care. If in 5 days' time you don't have your launch plan, as in like you don't know what day you're starting, what offer you're launching, and, you know, what your incentive is going to be and all those kind of things. If you do not have that down, scrap it all. Scrap it all. Okay? You're not doing it. Okay, moving on. Part of me recording this is I'm thinking, oh my God, people will listen to this and think I'm so harsh and never want to work with me. But, don't know, I think it's good to have opinions. All my opinions come from, you know, experience, knowledge, education, all of that jazz. Yeah, anyway, let's get into some more reasons how I don't think your launch is strategic. You're using it as a distraction. to ignore other parts of your business that you don't enjoy or that aren't working, and you're trying to turn a blind eye to it. Okay, so maybe you have part of your business that you hate doing. Maybe it's an offer, maybe it's a part of the work, maybe you just aren't in love with the niche that you chose or how you're working this, that, and the other. And so you're like, let me just do a launch and just see how it goes, and I'll take it from there. And I know this because I've fucking been, right? I have been there. And this was actually me. This was me at the beginning of the year, right? When I was, so for a bit of context, like I said, I kind of did launch cycles kind of halfway through 2024, all the way through 2025, ended 2025 on a launch. And then I was like, right, do you know what? I'm going to test Evergreen for a bit. Spoiler alert, it didn't go well, but that's a whole other conversation. It's not because Evergreen was the wrong strategy. Okay. It was because of the offer. But I then knew the offer wasn't working. I think I knew that in my heart of hearts, the offer was not working. But instead, because I'd put so much work, it's a bit of that sunken cost fallacy, right? I'd put in so much work into this offer, my like heart and soul. I'd already sold it as well. I think this is the issue, is I did that launch. I'd already sold a few spots. For context, again, my launch goal for that end of 2025 launch was to have between 7 and 10 people. And I got 3. I did get a lot of past client re-signs, so I did have a good number of people in the group, but I wanted 7 to 10 new people. And I got 3. That was the sign. And I kind of was telling myself like, oh, because it's new, it's, I don't know, just something in the water. I'm just going to keep it on Evergreen and keep selling it. Right. Didn't make any more sales. Is what it is. And so then I was like, right, okay, Evergreen isn't working. And actually, because it's this kind of new offer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close doors, and then I'm going to go back to doing launch cycles just to give it some more of that oomph behind it. Like give it the incentive, give it the momentum that it deserves. That was it. I was just telling myself like, it just needs momentum. It just needs a push. It just needs a launch. Okay. So I closed doors, and in that month where I closed the doors, I did actually sign 2 new clients into it. So fantastic. Doing a little bit, the doors are actually going to close, and I'm probably going to open them in like 2 months. Did get 2 more people to take action, which fantastic. I don't know if they would. I mean, they might have done because it's on Evergreen anyway, but there would have been more like, oh, I'll just, I'll do it next month. I'll sort it next month. That kind of energy behind it. So I was like, right, let's go back to launching. And oh my God, my phone will not shut up. Put that on sleep. It's because it's my husband, and I have it so that he can text me even when it's on silent and that jazz, because sometimes I fall asleep. What was he saying? Oh yeah, so I was going to put this like launch behind it. And so I was going to be right, end of March I was closing the doors. April I was going to do audience growth and nurture. May was like nurture. Well, end of May I was going to like do a launch event, and then June open the doors again. This was my plan, right? We're going to do a launch. So there I was tippy-tappying, putting my launch plan. And I think something deep, again, something in me knew this was not going to work. And actually, I paused selling the program, and I felt so much relief from not selling it and not having to try and sell it, that I didn't really know what I was selling anymore. So then I was just throwing every like kind of offer out there in the sun, seeing what stuck. And then I went on holiday and had 2 weeks offline. Highly recommend it. Going on a 2-week cruise, because out on the ocean, you don't have the internet, and cruise internet costs a lot. So I didn't buy it. So 2 weeks off grid, did some journaling, came back. I was going to say launched momentum. I didn't really launch it. I just kind of went on my stories and was like, hey, what about this offer? And it sold out. And so now I sell this offer. And I binned 6-figure safety. I binned that program that I was going to come back and I was going to do a big ass launch for. And that because all of that thinking and that planning around launching and all of that energy was actually it was just a distraction from the fact that the offer wasn't working. I didn't want to sell it. Okay. But rather than admit that and admit defeat, that like I launched an offer and then closed it, like it was meant to be a 12-month offer, and people at this point had only been in it for like 4 months. So I was like, oh my God, I have to keep selling it because it's got this long anyway. And people are in it and people are getting results. And so I just need to sell it. And so I just need to do a launch. It'll be fine. But actually all of that was a distraction from the fact that I just didn't enjoy delivering it. I didn't want to do that work anymore. I didn't want to be a money coach anymore. Or like not solely a money coach. I wanted to lean more into the business strategy side of things. That's where I was enjoying supporting clients the most. And it took, being offline for 2 weeks to realize that. Obviously now I am someone, and it's one of those things where, your therapist needs a therapist, your money coach needs a money coach, your business coach needs a business coach. So before anyone goes on about how that like, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. And I'm like, no, it's just, we cannot see the label from inside the jar. And sometimes it takes someone else. Like for me, it took 2 weeks offline on a all expenses and paid for cruise. Highly recommend. But in case you can't do that, in case you've not got one of those lined up for next week, then the next best thing is to, again, hire or work with an expert, work with someone who can see your business from the outside, who can give you that outsider's point of view, who can spot the little belief patterns that you've gotten yourself in, or, where you're maybe using some parts of your business as a crutch for maybe some other parts that aren't working. BT dubs, I'm that person, but like other business strategists are available. Okay, so is your launch a procrastination of just doing the fucking thing? Is your launch a distraction from the fact that something within your business isn't working or you don't love it anymore? The third point is is the launch just a shiny object? And this is probably one of the biggest things I see. Oh my God, launches are such a shiny object. And it's because launches get, obviously the whole idea of a launch is that you're putting this huge marketing and sales push behind an offer, behind a product. And so obviously it's then gaining traction, momentum. People are hearing about it more. So launches are in the limelight, right? Launches are always in the limelight because that is the idea of launches, right? It is to literally spotlight an offer. So of course we see people's launches, and when people's launches goes well, they talk about it and they talk about all the sales they made and all the good things that came from it, right? How it helped them grow. It's not just money. It helped me grow my audience as well. Like, yeah, okay, great. Do you know what you don't hear about? You don't hear about the launches that didn't go well. People just go quiet. And you've already moved on because that's how the internet works nowadays, is you don't even give two thoughts to it, right? You don't even think about, I wonder how their launch went. Okay, maybe you do think that, but like nothing beyond that. You're not reaching out. You're not questioning it, and you shouldn't, right? I'm not saying like question everyone who does a launch. Like, actually, what were your launch numbers? But I just want you to know that what you are seeing online is the shiny object. It is when people have incredible launches, and a lot of them well deserved. Obviously, I know as I'm speaking, we know what I'm talking about, right? There's been some very high profile launches recently. Obviously, Jessie Jean and the Yap Challenge, when everyone and their mum started talking about it. Pop off to her. There are so many reasons why that works so well. And this is not an episode to go into that. I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, let me dissect someone else's launch and then make money off of that. That's weird. What I'm going to do is just go, look, we all know we're thinking about it, so let's just name it. That now it's made launching a shiny object, because now you're thinking, I could have that. And so that's exciting, right? And for those of us that have ADHD, those of us that maybe have that, like we chase the dopamine, right? We're constantly looking for the next dopamine rush. And of course, the idea of doing a launch is that the payoff will give us that dopamine rush. But what happens is you start the planning process, and that just becomes procrastination, because you realize that to do a launch, you have to become visible, and being visible is scary. Or you use that again, the shiny object could also be the distraction. You're distracting yourself from the fact that you don't even like the offer. That's why you're not selling it. That's why it's not selling. Or then this kind of ties really nicely into my last point, which is that the shiny object actually makes you think that it's going to be a revenue saver and you think that it's going to save your business. Okay, if I do a launch, I'll get the income boost that I need, and then I'll be able to insert thing here. Then I won't have to go and get the day job that maybe my partner is asking me to get because I'm struggling to cover our bills, right? We think, and again, this is because we see the shiny objects and our brains want to chase dopamine. And of course, when it feels like there's not enough money, or maybe whether there is or there isn't enough money, remember, our body, our brain does not know the difference. If we tell ourselves there's not enough money, whether you have £1 or £1 million, that is your belief. So I always say, whether we believe, if we believe there's not enough money, of course, and we see someone else do a launch and then make, 6 figures, 7 figures, multi-7 figures off of it, then of course we're like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do me one of them. I'm going to do me one of them. I've seen it work really well for this person, so I'm going to do it and work really well. Based on what evidence? Based on what evidence? First of all, before you do any kind of launch, right? Obviously, I don't want you to do a launch because you need a revenue savior, right? There are other things we can do, okay? More sustainable profit strategies and revenue strategies that we can do that don't require the kind of mental effort and capacity that launching does. But I forgot what I was going to say. Fucking hell. I was really bigging up that point, wasn't I? Anyway, moving on. Launching as a revenue savior. Oh, yes, I know what I was going to say. You need to know before you do a launch, okay, before you even entertain a launch, you need to validate the offer, okay? You need to know that offer is going to sell. How? You need to speak to your audience. You need to ask them, okay? I don't care if you do interviews with people, if you do Instagram polls and questions, if you do a survey, like it doesn't really matter what you do. If you test a kind of beta version of the offer, doesn't matter. There are so many different ways of validating an offer. But first of all, you need to validate it, because if this offer doesn't sell, if people don't want it, if the messaging isn't right, if the positioning isn't right, well, then putting a launch behind it, all you're doing is putting a giant spotlight on messaging that doesn't convert, positioning that isn't desirable, and an offer that nobody wants, okay? You're just putting in a lot of time, effort, and ultimately money, because in business, your time is money. You're just putting that into an offer that isn't going to sell. You're not going to get the result. Then you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to be in an even worse position because you probably would have hedged all your bets on this launch, and then it's not going to work, right? So before you even entertain the idea of launching, you need to know that other areas of your business work, okay? Also, let's say you did launch it and it did go incredibly well. How are you delivering it? What systems do you have in place to be able to onboard that many people, to provide them all good client experience? Because if you launch, let's say best case scenario, you throw a launch out there, you just kind of like sellotape together a launch, put it out there, does really well. You're like, great. But it wasn't strategic. It was from a place of desperation, from a place of scarcity, from a place of shiny object, but also from that like kind of revenue saver mindset. Now your systems are shit and people are not having a good experience. And so they're not gonna stay. So you're losing client lifetime value. Okay. That's going to reduce if you even had client lifetime value in the first place. That means you're going to be spending more time, more effort, more money on constantly generating new leads to get into new clients, because you can't maintain clients because your systems are so bad. It means that when people talk about your offer, they're not going to be talking about it in a good way. And so that's not going to help when you then do the next launch, because people will be like, oh, did so-and-so did it last time? They didn't really have a good experience because X, Y, Z. So you can't just throw a launch out there as a revenue saver, okay? All of this, a launch has to be strategic. A launch in and of itself is not a strategy. I mean, you could argue that yes, it is. But if you just do it on its own, if you just throw a launch out there, it's not necessarily the right strategy for you, and it's not going to be done strategically, right? Because we don't know how it ties to your business model, how it ties to your revenue goals. We don't know if the offer is validated. Like, we don't know if your systems can handle it. Like, we don't know. None of it's done strategically. You're just kind of like throwing something out into the ether and hoping that it sticks. The better option, this is what I'm going to end on, is, and it's not, because I know it feels like, and I said it at the beginning of the episode, it feels very binary. You're either someone who does launches or someone that sells an evergreen, right? No. You can do what you want when you want, as long as it makes sense for you and your business. But in order to, if you want to make sales today, tomorrow, this week, next week, this month, next month, do you know what you have to do? Not spend weeks planning a launch. It's to sell. Every day. Make an invitation every single day. And it's not a big scary thing. Doesn't need to be complicated. It can be as easy as, on Instagram stories, you can do a little note, and on Threads, you can do like a little ghosty note thing. I just put on there, I've got one space for August. That's me telling my audience, I've got one space, come and work with me. That's the link. I can make an Instagram story. I can talk about some client results, right? And then I go, I've got one space left for August. Okay? It's inviting people. It's maybe you had someone reach out in the past and they decided it wasn't the right time, or that they were going to get back to you. I mean, I'm saying I've got one space available because I actually have two spaces available. But I have one person who was like, I really want to pick up this conversation in August. And I have like a bit of a rule where, because my capacity is limited, if someone has shown interest in working with me, as in like they are like, yes, I'm in, but it needs to be, because of my capacity and what I'm doing, it needs to be, August, September. Because my capacity is limited, I kind of like pencil it for them. What I will do, and I will do this today because it's Monday, it's the beginning of the month, and we last had a conversation maybe like 2-3 weeks ago where they were like, early or mid-August, I'm in. I'm just going to reopen the conversation again. I'm just going to go, hey, how's it going? Like, just so you know, this is like my availability. I'm all up for like holding this space for you. If you're going to be like, if you're in, obviously if you have any questions, like feel free to let me know, like we can hop on a call. Absolutely no issue whatsoever. I'll let you know where I'm at, and then you can let me know where you're at, and then that's it. That is not salesy. That is not salesy. This person came into my DMs. This person came to me. Okay, this person came to me. She was like, I've just binged all your content. She, like, literally, it was incredible. So, a side note, a little brag, if you will. Instagram, she saw one of my posts. She wasn't a follower. She went onto my page, loved what she saw, went onto my link in bio, because I have one clear link in bio. She stalked that sales page. She applied then and there. Then when she went back to Instagram, then she followed me. And then I DM'd her being like, oh my God, hey, just seen that you've applied. And then just started the conversation there of like, what was it that made you apply? Like, what does it make it? Basically the things I would do in a sales call. It's basically just understanding why you're interested and why now. And then she literally was like, yep, I'm in. I was like, great, here's the link. Literally, here is the checkout link. And she was like, great. Then when she didn't do that straight away, obviously I'm like, oh, because of the conversation, I just thought, we're moving to the sale. Gave it a couple of days and was like, oh, just so you know, like, here's a little availability update, just because I don't want you to miss out if you were interested. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. Definitely interested. But, I've got some things coming up, and actually, I think August is going to be a better time for me. So then she just said early to mid-August. Yes, I'll check out. And so now we are in, it's been a few weeks, so I'm just open it again. Hey? It's not salesy, okay? But also, even if it was salesy, that's okay. And do you know why? Because you're running a business. And I don't care if you're like, Emily, I'm not running a business. Actually, I'm just self-employed. I'm not running a business. I'm actually just freelance. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not responsible for the money that you make? You're not got bills to pay? I don't know about you, but I've got bills to pay. I've also got some savings goals I want to hit. I've got a little bit of credit card debt that I want to pay off. I want to go on a few more holidays. And none of that is selfish. And actually, I know I'm good at what I do. And I know that my clients get value for money. And I know that because most of them stay around. And so I'm going to sell my things because I know they can help people and I need to make money. And I'm sorry, unless you're literally out here like doing this as a hobby and you don't need the money and you can afford to not be salesy. Yeah, you have to sell your shit. And sales is literally just inviting someone to buy from you. And so most of the work that I do with clients is, yes, okay, we make sure that they have a clear revenue goal. They know how they're bringing money into their business and they know how to manage that money. I kind of bring in the money coaching into it. They know how to manage their money. The systems are set up. They know how they're tracking their money. They know what the gaps are, how much money they need to bring in. Then we look at their offer. Okay, is their offer clear? If it's already selling, just keep doing that. I'm not going to change anything. Why would I change anything? It's stupid. Okay. If they don't have an offer that's currently working, well, great. Let's create that. Let's work on that together. But you know what you're going to be doing is you are going to be making invitations from the off. And I do this with love. I bully my clients. Because I know that we procrastinate. I know that sometimes asking for the sale is hard. And so I literally had last week a client who was like, I know, well, this is actually all my clients. This is everyone. They're like, I know that if I post on social media talking about my offer that I make sales, but I'm not doing it. And I'm like, why are you not doing it? And they're like, blah, blah, reasons out their ass. And I'm like, right, you're going to do it. So I was like, right, you're going to do this. You're going to do a content plan for the next 2 weeks. For this person, we are actually putting a push behind their offer. We're not doing a full-blown launch. We're just going, right, we do need a bit of momentum. So let's for the next 2 weeks, let's go all in on selling this offer. I told this person I wanted her to send more than one email a day, flabbergasted her, and to post once a day. I was like, well, do you want to make money or not? Simple question. Anyway, she posted one and then checked in with me because she said, I kind of said, you have to send me your content plan by the end of the day. She was like, I'm really sorry I haven't done the content plan yet because I'm too busy answering all these sales inquiries that I'm getting because I actually talked about my offer for once. So yeah, she has continued to post every day and she has also made loads of sales. So it does work. Who knew? So I bully, but I bully with love, and I bully because I want you to make money. I've got another client who was like, I got an inquiry from Pinterest, but we only have like 3 pins on there. And I was like, imagine if you had more. She was like, yeah, I've got like 50 pins. I just need to actually post them. I was like, what are you doing? Well, yeah, but, and I'm like, no. You're going to post them. Guess what? End of that very same day, she posted her pins. Now we're going to watch the inquiries roll on in. Anyway, all that to say, as you know, I've got one space in August. I want to say 2 spaces for September, but again, I do actually have some leads for those. So I don't know, get in a boxing ring and start fighting over them. It's fine. I would love to work with you. I would love to work on, let's make quarter 4. Let's make quarter 4 the best quarter yet. Right? Let's make quarter 4 the best quarter yet. That's what we're going to do together. Right? So you are going to go to emilynotley.co.uk/memento. You're going to have a little stalk of my new sales page. I say it's new. I'm going to have an even newer one because I've actually hired a copywriter to actually write me a good sales page. Because if I write it, I know I'm the procrastinator. Well, I'm the tinker, right? I will literally go on that sales page and tinker with it 24/7. And then I'm like, I can't tell what works and what doesn't because I don't give anything long enough to fucking stick. Anyway, so go look at my version of the sales page and then maybe in a few weeks' time, well, actually it'll be like a month or so's time, you'll be able to see the copywriter's version of the sales page. So let me know which you prefer. But anyway, you're going to go on that sales page, you're going to have a look at it. You're going to go, oh my God, Emily, yes, I need to work with you. And I'd be like, oh my God, I know, but like limited availability and all that jazz because like I'm only one person. I've only got so many hours in the day. And I work part-time because fuck off when I work in full-time. When I go work part-time hours and earn a full-time income. So then you're going to go, okay, shit, I'm going to reply. You're going to reply. I'm then going to message you and go like, oh my God, thank you so much for your application. Like, I would love to work with you. And then I will be like, do you want to have a chat? Or like, do you want to chat in the DMs? Do you want to have a call? And you'll be like, I'm chill. Let's just chat in the DMs. And then you'll be like, yeah, I'm so totally in. And then I'll send you the checkout link. You'll pay. And then we'll be like, having our best time ever. And then in December, I will probably be like signing off for Christmas and being like, oh my God, this has been like the best quarter ever. Like, look at your numbers. Aren't you amazing? And then in January, we'll be like, right, time for the best year ever. Anyway, if that sounds like something you want to do, you know where to go. But I have fun in this episode. Let me know if there's anything that's come up that you thought was interesting. Let me know if you want me to any of the side tangents, any of the little notes around like maybe what a strategic launch does look like, or some of the other points that I commented on. Let me know if you want full-blown episodes on those. And yeah, I will speak to you soon. Bye.